tried to cross the bank and step back.
Greg did.
Well, that's all. Okay, real quick, we're going to spend, it's going to be a long few minutes, but people are talking. We're going to spend just a few minutes, just a few, I promise, talking about the experience you just had, talking about the Underground Railroad itself, kind of making some comparisons, something you might find interesting, so please listen. The first thing we need is raise your hand and give me one-word descriptions, just one quick word, an adverb or an adjective, I'm not sure, I'm getting confused, of how it felt to spend some time on the Underground Railroad. Yes?
Scary.
Scary. Yeah, good. That's a good one. Cool. Okay. Oh, that wasn't a hand up. Any other hands? Terrific. Fun. Hold on. Before you all say that, remember at the beginning, you all told me it was really boring. Okay. Okay. Shh. I'm just checking. Shh. Guys, everyone needs to be quiet. Just nifty. Shh. Guys, what's your name? Chris just said a really good point. He said it made you feel paranoid. That's a pretty good description, probably, of how it. That's fine though. Guys, everyone over here is talking, and everyone over, this person's supposed to be the only one talking. What'd you say? Suspicious. You get suspicious. Anxious. Anxious. Okay. Anything else? Shh. Yeah. Tired. Yes. And you all went a few hundred yards. Can we say that? In fairness, okay, you went a half mile. Now, for you all, it was just an activity, right? It was just a way to maybe have some fun, to learn a little bit about Illinois. For the people who were really running on the Underground Railroad, it was no activity. It was not a game. It was not something we do only one night a year. For the people who really ran on the Underground Railroad, what do you think it was like for them? Do you think terrified describes it pretty well? Do you think paranoid describes it pretty well?
Mortified.
Mortified. Good word there. You would be mortified. All of a sudden, because all of a sudden, you can't trust anyone. When you met your conductor, did you meet your conductor and think, okay, this is the person that's going to lead me?
Yeah.
Of course you did. On the Underground Railroad, you didn't know if that was going to happen. Because you might meet your conductor and he or she might turn out to be a bounty hunter. And you might find yourself right back where you started in a lot worse shape than you're in. Did that happen? It happens all the time. Safe houses.
Oh, I mean today.
Oh, today? No. And on the real Underground Railroad, it happened all the time. You got paranoid and didn't know who to trust. Now, understanding that this walk that you had to take, how far do you think it is from, we might have already touched on this, but how far do you think it is from, say, Virginia or North Carolina all the way to
About 4,000
Canada?
miles.
4,000, not quite that much, but
2,500 miles.
2,500. Depending on the route you take, it's 1,000 miles, it's 2,000 miles. It's a long way.
How long did it take you?
How long did it take you? Good question. It took, guys, I'm not going to sit here and talk over you. It took, if you got on the fastest possible route and you ran into no major problems, it might take you 5 or 6 months. For some people, it took 2 or 3 years because they would stop at a safe house and have to hide there for a week at a time. Or they'd have to go to a completely different area to run from bounty hunters. It was a long, long journey. And once you got to Canada, what did you have there waiting for you? Freedom. You had freedom, that's right. Justin, that's important. You had your freedom. And for that freedom, you got nothing. You'd run away from your family, probably, because families don't do too well on the Underground Railroad. You run away from what you knew. And you ended up in Canada with this grand word called freedom. You had no house, you had no food, you had no job, and you probably would have trouble getting a job. Because just because they didn't have slaves in Canada doesn't mean that they weren't racist and that they weren't bigots. It doesn't mean that they were willing just to hire blacks or to hire people of a different color. Now the slaves ran on this. And knowing what you know, just a little bit that we've gone over, why would any slave then, why would they ever run on the Underground Railroad? Why would you try?
Get away from working 14 hours a day.
Get away from
Get,
the labor, from
yeah.
from being a slave.
I think Canada would be better than
There you go. Canada would be better than a plantation. In many cases, Canada didn't turn out to be so great, but you had your freedom, and that was important.
In the plantations, you were destined to die, so you just ran to Canada.
Yes, in the plantations, you were destined to die there. You were born there, or you came there, you were sold there. And that is where you would spend your whole life, and that is also where you would die. Any other reasons why do you think people ran? The masters beat them. It was fairly common throughout the South, and mind you, throughout the North, when Northern people had slaves, to beat slaves. It was not by any means uncommon.
If you had a family, your family could be sold away from you.
Good. Anyway, yes, but that's very true. I caught myself off guard there. If you, see, Drew, I told you, you can't do it, you know. Shot in the heck. But if you left your plantation, if you weren't caught, your family might pay the price of you not getting caught. And your wife or your husband and your children might be sold. They might be beat because you left. Doesn't seem right, does it? Now, remember at the beginning when we did Middle Passage? And that we were talking about the ship, right? And these people were put on these ships and brought over here. What do you think made people think in the first place? Some people in Virginia in 1619, a ship from Spain basically washed ashore in Virginia. It was lost. It was a Spanish ship, and when they arrived there, the cargo was about 75 slaves. Now, the people in Virginia made a choice, right then and there, to purchase these living, breathing human beings. That seems so foreign to us today. Where did they ever get the idea that they could do this? What is it that makes someone think that they could do that? Is it striking intelligence?
Lazy. Yes.
They were different. These people who came off the boats for no other reason, not one other reason than the fact that their skin was dark and their language was not our language, the language we use today. For no other reason than that, these people in Virginia and all throughout the United States and all throughout the New World decided that just because the color of your skin is just a little darker than mine, you don't deserve the life that I have. You don't deserve the education. You don't deserve the freedom. You don't deserve any of the benefits that I have as a free person. And the best thing that can be done with you is to put you on a tobacco farm or on a cotton farm and leave you there for your whole life. Why didn't more slaves try to escape? There's a few other things. Why didn't more get up and leave? Some were treated fairly well, that is true. They never had their freedom, but they were within their own plantation, they were treated fairly well. They're afraid to get killed if they got caught. Anything else?
A lot of them were under the thought that you worked hard and you would
Okay. Yeah, a lot of them, some plantation owners struck onto the idea that we could convince these people that they could get their freedom if they worked hard. Did they ever get their freedom?
No.
Very rare. There's a few shining examples of people who got their freedom. Most did not.
How did people tell the difference? Like, is that freedom? How is like papers?
You were given papers. Does anyone know the most famous example of a freed slave other than Harriet Tubman?
Some morning or truth?
Frederick Douglass. So I can never pronounce the first name. Something Truth. Yes. Frederick Douglass bought his own way out of slavery and turned around and spent his whole life trying to help the slaves. A lot of people did. Or not a lot, a few people did. The ones who could. But why didn't more people try to run? What else happened? They didn't want to leave their families. We talked about that. Did they know about the Underground Railroad?
Oh, I don't know.
Why not?
They were isolated.
They were isolated?
So when they just spread it around, eventually they mashed it.
Yeah. You don't want the master to find out about this. Why else?
There are a lot of them that not know the same language as the other slaves.
No, most of the slaves spoke English, but if you were a slave owner, would you teach your slaves how to read? What is so wrong with knowing how to read?
Well, it's not a read, it's very valuable. You read stuff.
Yeah, what could you read? Well, what could you get a hold of that might be dangerous?
Papers.
Unless you ran away, you get a job.
If you ran away, you could have a better chance of getting a job. What else could you read?
Map.
A map. Once you can read a map, all of a sudden, you know how to get away. Slaves didn't know how to read maps. Advertisements. Newspapers. What were the newspapers talking about in 1850? Slavery. And some of them talked about this thing, the Underground Railroad. The last thing a plantation owner ever wanted a slave to become was educated. Because once the slaves were educated, they could learn things about how to get away. They could learn that no one deserves to spend their whole life as they did. And it took this country 250 years, not this country, but the first people here, it took us 250 years to figure that out. It took the bloodiest war in our history for us to finally realize that it was wrong.
So, that was time.
Well, we won't get, there was a,
North versus south.
anyway, we're not going to get into a discussion of whether the Civil War is about slavery. But the fact is that we fought
It's about territory.
the bloodiest war in our history around, and for his sake, around issues that involved slavery. And when the war was over, the slaves were finally freed. Do we still have, does the problem with slavery still linger today?
Yeah.
What do we call
It's prejudice.
it? Racism. It still exists in, guys, it still exists in a different type of form. Different type of form, I don't know, but in a different form, it does. In different countries, in South Africa until last year, about this time, in some form it existed. And in this country, it's taken us 130 years and we haven't shaken it. Yeah.
A lot of people are still enslaved and unable to get out of the enslaving situation because they are unable to get educated still today.
People around the world. Drew?
Who freed the slaves?
Who did free them? Who knows? Who freed the slaves?
What given the Emancipation Proclamation?
Okay. Now a little point of trivia that's not so trivial. Who was freed exactly by the Emancipation Proclamation?
Freed slaves in the North.
No, not so. In fact,
Actually, nobody, because that was by Abraham Lincoln, and it was like Southerners had their own country then.
yes. Abraham Lincoln signed a proclamation saying that slaves in the southern states were free. Unfortunately, the southern states at the time weren't part of the United States. The slaves in the 4 northern states that still had slavery, Kentucky, Missouri, Delaware, and one I can't remember right now, those 4 states had slaves, and the Emancipation Proclamation left those 4 states with slaves. And it took an amendment to the Constitution to free them. And for 130 years, we're still trying to shake this legacy of slavery. And just like then, by being uneducated and by staying stupid about issues like this, all we do is perpetuate the problem. Okay, well thank you guys for listening. It was great. Thanks for discussing with me. What we're going to do now is we're going to have Drew come up. And he's gonna
25 years and my life is still standing in that great big hill of hope for a destination. Realized quickly when I knew that I should, was mailed
You should recognize.
Bring me back here because I need to read some of the lyrics. But we're going to practice the chorus first. You guys know this one? This is a great one. At first I was Some examples stop. Let's go. Stop shooting. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going around. You guys know that. All right. Something happened in the air. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I've got to beware. It's time to stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. What I feel it more the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs, say we pray for our lives. Time to stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Battle lines being drawn, no one is right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from the wrong beat. Time to stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going around. Paranoia strikes deep. Into your life it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, make home, take it away. It's time to stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
You guys sound great. So we come to the end of our third day at Nature's Classroom. It's been a pretty long day. See some tired faces. That's always good to see. Let's do a quick ILAC check. How are the beads doing? Who is wearing one or has worn one at some point in time during the week? You still got 2 days to go. That's good. Please talk. So keep passing those around. The ILAC board's looking quite full. There's always room for a few more comments. That's nice. We can always stick another one up if we need to as well. Again, when you get back to your rooms tonight, after you have your time to run around and have fun and all that kind of stuff, go to sleep. Get some sleep. What?
Not run around.
No running around, of course. No running around. That goes without saying. Absolutely no running around. You may walk slowly and visit. No. Stop out. No, they all got out. That extra energy. They're never going to get back. I heard a rumor going around that you guys thought I was really mean when I came to your school.
One is me.
So you guys think I was mean? Yeah.
Oh, come on. You gotta be kidding.
That's all right. Well, I'm glad. It's better that you had lower expectations coming than higher expectations. If I made it sound like Disneyland, then when you got here, you'd be,
Crying.
yeah. So I made it sound horrible, and now you guys are having a good time, and that's all that really matters. Tomorrow is going to be a day largely like Tuesday, except for the evening activity. In the morning, you'll have field group for 2 hours, 9:30 to 11:30. Then you'll have a class at 2 o'clock and a class at 4 o'clock. Tomorrow night, we're going to do a skit night, and you guys are going to have a few minutes, 15 minutes or so before you start. We're going to give you some implements with which to create a skit with your field group, and then we're going to put them on. Now, if you have a couple friends and you have a little skit or something you want to do, and have a chance to get up and shine in front of your friends or whatever, sing a song or read a poem or do a dance or whatever, if you have any buried talents that patrons need to be here bright and early